Recording. Hello and welcome to week 9 burn down on Wednesday, August 28th. This is the 116 release. Welcome everybody. It's lovely to see everybody's faces, and people are still rolling in. While they are doing that, please take a moment to add your name to the attendees list if you are here with your associated role. And if anyone would love to volunteer to be note taker, I would be very appreciative. Thank you very much. Lazy agenda link. Thank you, Gwen. That's the old agenda. We will get it fixed up. I'm live commentary here. There we go. So this meeting is being recorded. It will be posted to YouTube after this. So a reminder that all these conversations fall under the Kubernetes Code of Conduct, which states that you must be excellent to each other, and we all adhere to that and appreciate your adherence. Today we have a packed agenda. It looks like there is a lot of good news in the agenda as I was reading through it. So I'm excited to get through all the updates and hear where people are in all their associative roles. And we are like 20, maybe 17, 18 hours out from code freeze tomorrow. So exciting times in the release. So to kick it off, I will pass it to enhancements for an update with Kendrick. Kendrick, no Kendrick, that's okay. Who do we have any enhancements folk here who can take us through an update?
Okay, I'm here.
Yeah. Hello, Ria.
Hey. Well, Kendrick did everything for the last stuff. He just basically commented on all the issues, or sorry, PRs and stuff, or it was, I guess, issues to get them into enhancements for the KK like PRs and stuff. So he did that, and that's really all I know right now.
Okay, fantastic. Can you go back? I have one question for your team.
Okay.
What are we looking at in terms of, I would really like to know a percentage of all the KK PRs that are outstanding for all the enhancements.
Okay.
What percentage is still open?
Gotcha.
Today, and then I will touch base with everybody in the morning. So if you can have Kendrick throw a update, or if you get the information, feel free to throw it in there. I just want to look objectively at what percentage we're actually looking at that are closed a day and a half out from code freeze. Because also, you know, we need to monitor the exception process as well. There may be some exceptions coming in.
Yep.
Cool. So if you could take that as an action for the enhancements team, that would be very much appreciated.
Yep, we'll do. We'll give it an update.
Thanks, Ria. And
thank you.
Thanks for stepping in. I mean, yeah, by the end of the day is fine. I'm just trying to see how we're tracking percentage-wise.
Cool.
Very cool. Thanks, enhancements team. Thank you, Ria. Moving on to George, and I see a green, so George better come in with his party hat on.
Sorry, I don't have any hats, but I have a lot of cool stuff to share with you all. There's also a ton of work, so I'm gonna try to get you all through this as fast and nicely as possible. So first off, CI signal report. Please check it out. It was written by Nicholas this time. If you wanna get caught up on everything that's been going on the Kubernetes side, especially the things that broke, you're gonna get a lot of insights into the things that have been going on. The next things that I wanted to bring up are a couple of to do items. So first off, 116, as it has been mentioned previously, the 116 informing dashboard does not look the same as the current master informing dashboard. Especially, we have a couple kubeadmin kind of jobs that we need to port, and the kubeadmin maintainers have. It seems that they have an open PR on Kinder to actually get the ball rolling. CI signal wise, we're gonna work closely with them and see if there's anything they need, if there's anything else we can help in order to have their jobs running against 116. The next one it's an open issue. It's an issue that was opened by Josh. We need to, we need to start arguing, discussing on the criteria we need to use to promote jobs from anywhere in test grid to release blocking, release informing. Um, I propose I threw out the plans for a unicorn in there. If you wanna read it, provide some feedback. But the big idea is everything in test grid. Every single test is in a way replicated between the owning SIG and the sig-release dashboards. If you want to run a test of whether Qvector can create a pod, that test exists in the SIG CLI dashboard, and it also exists somewhere in the sig-release dashboard. So we just want to create a better channel of communication between the SIGs and the release team to make sure that we can promote and demote jobs whenever it makes sense in a better fashion. And those are the to-do items. Those are I see a hand raising. Go for it.
Hey, so I didn't get to go through your proposal just yet, but I think that so now that Josh's doc has landed, that's part of what I wanted to happen first. Now that Josh's doc has landed, I think that we have enough information to build like a GitHub template for requests for master blocking jobs. I think that one of the biggest problems that we have is that someone can arbitrarily promote a job to master blocking or release branch blocking without any intervention from us. So I think that part of what I would like to do is move us to kind of a directory structure where we have Kubernetes, like jobs, Kubernetes, and informing and blocking stay under the owner's file for sig-release. So if you want to bring your job into blocking, you are basically saying that you're going to bring your job under sig-release's purview as well, right? That way we are able to manipulate the annotations as we need to. If we need to fork jobs, we can also do that. As we're essentially saying, like a master blocking job is something that's under the purview of sig-release. It should be in a sig-release controlled directory. So.
Yeah, George actually had an interesting proposal about that. If you look at the issue, I think we need to discuss that in the sig-release meeting, which is, I don't know when, because it got bumped from last week, but next Monday is a U.S. holiday.
Oh, no. Oh, geez. All right. I'll figure that out. I totally forgot about the holiday.
That meeting's too early anyway.
People voted for it.
Yeah, we'll figure something out. We'll discuss it. We'll make sure to ping as many people as possible to get coverage and get good feedback. But to Stephen's idea, definitely, that's also one of the things that we want to make sure that doesn't happen again. People just promoting jobs without anyone else knowing whether they're good or what they do, for that matter. And I guess that's it for the big to-do items in the CI signal world. Now on to actual jobs. So currently, in case you didn't already check it out, right now we are labeling everything as green. So master blocking, there's nothing failing. At least last time I checked. There are some flakes. We're just gonna same as usual. We're just gonna keep an eye on them. See if anything funny comes up. The one thing I do want to bring up is the fix for the IPv6 for testing IPv6 finally landed yesterday after many hours. So now a lot of people can actually merge their PRs within a reasonable time frame. As for the flaking jobs, I'm adding a new section at the bottom of my update. If you look towards the bottom, there's flaky jobs in bold and 116 blocking. I'm adding there some statistics, so all of you can see how flaky the flaky jobs have been, and we can continue sharing this information and with more time, discuss which jobs should be could probably be demoted from release blocking until we do something to improve the flakiness of them. But TLDR, master blocking, things are good, at least right now. Master informing, the conformance tests on OpenStack are stale, but I included but we CI Signal have been chatting with the provider, with the people from provider OpenStack. You can see the link to the trading Slack. Essentially, right now, the people from OpenStack are looking into it. Something went wrong somewhere along the way, and for one reason or another, the periodic conformance tests are not actually being run periodically. But we'll keep you updated on that. And the two failures on master informing right now are the devs and RPMs, and at this point it's kind of there are many things there are many things happening, a lot of work that's been done. If Stephen wants to give an update, I'll give him the space, but things are happening.
Yeah,
Go
sure.
Mhm.
So there was an issue with the basically the job runs in Docker. So in CI, it also runs interactively. So we had to do some tweaks to allow it to run Docker in Docker and non-interactively when it's not able to detect the TTY. So there's some fixes there. I also wanted to make sure that the Docker container is not running as root. Or the user within the container is not root. So some fixes to the user and group IDs. Those fixes now break different things, which are essentially like some directory permissions. So I'm tracking that stuff down right now, but the jobs are actually like running now and giving me different issues. So I'm pretty happy about that. I also increased the frequency of the periodics from 4 hours to 30 minutes because it's kind of impossible to debug and fix things and get some sort of signal within every 4 hours. So until these jobs are cleaned up, they'll run every 30 minutes. And once that's fixed, I'll pull that. So progress, yeah.
Lots of progress, fantastic. So just to summarize, master blocking, master informing, so far so good. Same for 116 blocking and 116 informing. And I see there is a note that was added as to why there's only a job. This is part of the work that we need to tackle. For we actually need to create a path for people to not only create jobs, not only to promote jobs to release blocking and release informing, but also to create the jobs whenever a new branch is created. In the past, so what is currently in 116 informing, that has been the same case for the last handful of releases. The only job that has been running is what is the GKE conformance suite, independent of whatever is actually sitting on master informing. So that another to do is to actually figure out a good way to I guess copy and paste what is in master informing to one .x informing for now and for the future.
So this should be simple-ish, hopefully. There are two annotations, fork per release, true, and fork something, blah, 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 dashboard.
It's really not simple. All of the jobs, I've been going through this with Catherine. All of the jobs for the branches are mutated from master jobs. And it's actually the process by which that happens is spread out across multiple files.
Yeah, so it's part of the config forker or the config bumper, the annotations that the config forker reads through, but part of it is it needs to have that fork per release on it, or it won't get picked up by a config forker.
Yeah. So actually, from my perspective, it is simple, which is that I file an issue and assign Catherine to it. Um, but the yeah, the new way of assigning jobs and stuff is much more technically stable, but it's a lot harder to actually find and modify stuff.
Yeah, before we get into the next branch cut, so we have some time, but we need to make sure those annotations are on, and we also need to make sure that the config forker code is looking through the correct directories for that stuff. There's some discussion happening right now where we're talking about what to do with the branches for k-release themselves, and I think I want to make it so that when we do branch cuts for KK, it does the same for k-release, so that we can start to get on a versioning scheme for that as well.
I'm going to propose that we table this for the sig-release meeting, which is really where it belongs and not in Burndown, because we're now talking about future release.
Gwen.
Thank you, Josh. Can we have a really quick TLDR by either one of you in the appropriate place in the notes, because I'm not sure I was following correctly. That would be awesome.
Yeah, so I guess for the audience, the TLDR is we're going to discuss this. We're going to work hard at making all of this easier and better documented for future releases. And the last thing in my update is release miscellaneous. It's also working. It's looking good. And I guess with that, I'll just end and give the floor for anyone that has any additional comments, questions, or criticisms.
So George, I have a couple of questions.
Mm-hmm.
and probably a statement or two. The first thing is I'm trying to understand the value of the flaky job section. And I'm trying to bubble up information that we can action in this call specifically. So, I mean, this is good to have visibility, but would you suggest, taking the top 3 or 4 high percentage, of failures? I see, GCE cause k8s beta slow, 20% failure in the past 7 days. Do we want to just take the top N and have the CI signal team do some investigation as to what's causing that N number of failures? If it's just, hey, this is timing out 9 times out of 10 or whatever, 20% of the time. And then we know we could fork off something larger like what Aaron stuck his head in and said he's doing with Velodrome, and try and split out the large jobs that are usually timing out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I mean, totally. So I just think, one thing with the flaky stuff, it's good, but take like the top N, because some of them are 1.2%. I don't know whether we need to worry about them at this point. And then there's a kind of a big diff between those and 20%. So I don't know, the 20 or 30%. It'd be interesting to come up with just a very lightweight action plan, and we put in a ticket to say, hey, this is timing out 29% of the time. We need to split up these jobs. Can somebody split this out into separate things and, remeasure that in Velodrome? I'm just trying to, I'm not trying to give you more work to do, but I think genuine deflaking, the number of the flakes here looks concerning. Would you agree?
Yeah, definitely and absolutely. So I'll ping you and everyone else so we can discuss this one further, because especially the flaking these jobs, it's gonna be a lot more interesting because there's not something per se that is wrong on the job. There's a lot of minor things that go wrong. So deflaking this is gonna be more interesting than deflaking some other jobs.
Yeah, I mean, even if you just take one and we come up with a plan, I think that's forward progress. And if it's going back to test info and saying, 20% of these runs are failing due to this unknown reason, we could have the test info team run off and figure out how to make that piece more stable, because we might actually fix a lot of the jobs with the same fix.
Hopefully, but definitely.
I mean, hopefully, cautiously optimistic. The other thing that is interesting, and I think this is just a point to understand here. So first point is clarification. The kind IPv6 master parallel jobs has nothing to do with dual stack. It's actually, they've added test coverage to a feature that went into alpha, which is pure IPv6 clusters in 1.9. What was happening here was they went off to actually add IPv6 support to kind because they had no way to test it in 1.9. That feature is still alpha. I went and just checked the enhancements and I was aware of this already, but they wanted to move IPv6 to beta and that got dropped. So this test, I still genuinely question whether it should be in blocking. I like that it is there and it is now green, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
But I know we've talked about it in the context of dual stack. It's actually not dual stack, IPv6 only, which is for most people yet less useful at this point. Not many people are running IPv6 only, has been an alpha since 1.9. So I think basically this work was all in preparation to have some test cases around IPv6. So when they move it to beta, which they are not doing in 1.16, so I would question whether it actually needs to live on master blocking at this point. So I don't know, do we want to go chase that down with, I know the owner of that job, so I could go and chase them down and say, hey, but how do you think we should best approach something like that? Because I know we've spent a lot of time saying this is red on that job. And when I went and looked at it, I'm like, well, it's actually not. It's code that's been laying around for 6 releases that we are now testing. That is still in alpha.
Yeah, it makes sense. I actually haven't looked a lot into it, but definitely, I think this is something worthwhile to chase.
Where should
the job? Sorry.
Sorry, you finished, George. I'm very sorry.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that the job is, I think it's definitely useful. So in the worst case, we could move it to release informing and just pass down this just have a pass down this knowledge on how this feature is something that it's planned to move on to beta on future releases. So take it with a grain of salt. But yeah, I like to look into it. So
I can kind of formulate an issue and get all the information together because I have worked with that enhancement owner, Antonio, and I can pull all the information into one ticket and then we can get Ben and Antonio to make a decision. But if it wasn't in blocking, should it be in informing at this point? Where would we want it if it could be somewhere?
Based on everything that you just said, I will say informing.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll put together a ticket with that, and we can get the folks involved. Was Ben Elder the person responsible for fixing the tests? I haven't looked at that specific fix. Antonio. Okay. Well, we'll go talk to him because then in 1.17, assuming it goes to beta, we can just promote it to blocking.
Definitely.
Okay.
Sounds
now
good.
the final thing people are going to ask me is, well, where is the dual stack test? So I'm just popping it in here. Now this is the other question. Now we have the dual stack tests up and running. There is one more piece to be merged, which is some E2E test for the phase 2 piece. So we actually have test coverage now for that. We've had 2 green runs, so we should probably just leave it here. But I was going to suggest we actually take dual stack and run it through the process, this particular job, and run it through the process to say what board it should land on, the process being what Josh has defined. Any objections to that?
I like the idea.
All right, well, I'll go and do my homework on the process and see if I can run it through there. I think the interesting thing, and I don't know right now, what is our stance on alpha features? Should they be in blocking? Because this is an alpha status feature. No. Which means you need to opt in. No. You need to opt in with flags to have this functionality.
Yeah.
So would it be an informing or not on anything, an alpha feature?
I would say informing. Well, first, we do have a job called alpha features that we're supposed to be adding tests to for alpha features in. And here's something we're less good at: removing tests from when the features are no longer alpha.
Okay.
So I mean, that's always my first thought is: does this need to be a separate job, or can you just add a new test to the existing alpha job?
So the question is also like, so there's like the features.go where some features that are alpha land in, but not all do, right? So is that checking for only features that are flagged in features.go, or is it checking for any random alpha thing, right? We need to figure that out. I also have questions, which is for a different meeting, about what we should do around how critical we consider jobs running on certain IaaSes to master blocking, master informing, right? Like this isn't like I'm just noting that this is like an AKS engine job, right? So like, do we consider AKS engine jobs potential for release blocking or release informing, right?
Yeah, totally.
So that's a separate discussion, though.
Yeah, totally. And I mean, in this case, not all clouds support IPv6, so we had to run it on the Azure cloud because we could actually test the feature end to end. So we could discuss that as well. So is the next steps me just raising a ticket about what board this should land on, and we can figure out if it lands in alpha? I think the only question I have for alpha is does that, because this has to run against specific infrastructure that supports dual stack. Could it be lumped
in the alpha job because the alpha job?
Okay, because of that.
On GCE or wherever else we're running things. So no, it would have to be a separate job for that reason.
Okay. And the same thing's going to be for the IPv6 test because it needs to run on kind only because it's not supported on any cloud. I mean, we could probably run it on Azure if we wanted to, but I think they've only built it out for kind at the moment. And the goal is for IPv6 dual stack to add it to kind as well. Once we land the feature, kind will implement it and we'll have it running against kind as well. But that's not there today, and I didn't want to have no coverage on the tests. So we just opted to pull in AKS engine where we could at least run an E2E on it.
Yeah, I mean, and I can shortcut some of this. So to understand the reasoning, so this would land in informing for a number of reasons. Number one is it is running on a specific cloud.
Okay.
And so that would put it in forming. Second, it only runs once every 12 hours.
Yep.
And we're requiring stuff in blocking to run at least once every 3 hours.
Okay.
So that if we're in the process of delaying a release, we can get signal within 24 hours.
Okay.
A third thing is I would say any new tests for alpha feature should land in informing because when those tests fail, we're going to have very little confidence that it's the feature and not the test that's failing.
I would go even further and say like they shouldn't land in informing at all, right? If it's an alpha feature, like it can be on someone else's board until the test is proven.
Mm-hmm. Right? And that's okay. I'll just go get the KEP updated with these tests and just leave it as is for alpha. Until we go to beta, we won't even talk promotion. Yeah, so then really the only. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. You know what? Again, let's take this to sig-release. Let's take this to the sig-release. Because once again, we talk about things that go beyond the release of 1.16.
No, absolutely.
Two meetings.
All right.
On top of which we have reports from a whole bunch of other roles that we're not getting to.
Yeah. So anyone who's interested in these features and talking about these features, can you make sure that you drop a future topic note in the SIG release agenda so we can get that scheduled?
Excellent. All right, well, thank you for the update, CI Signal. Thank you, George, and I'm glad to see green. Bug triage update with Marco.
Okay, everyone. So today's update might be a little bit longer, but let's get started. Regarding our status, I would say yellow, or maybe we can even reach green depending on what we decide regarding some issues. To start with some numbers, non-test and non-flake issues is the count at 45, which is great, and 21 less than we had on the last meeting. And to expand a little bit, I have updated the template, and now I also record what is the number of critical urgent and important soon issues. Regarding critical urgent, we have one issue, and I'm not sure really what to do with that one because it has the issue is 59848, and it has both priority critical urgent and priority important soon labels. I guess the one should go, but we have tried to ping the issue and we have got no response. Issue is like called from February 2018, and we tried to ping on Slack, and Clayton Coleman said that the issue is critical in terms of safety, but fixing the issue is not required for the existing release since it depends on significant work. Now, I'm not sure, should we leave the labels but just move the issue outside of the milestone or do something else? So I'm not sure, should we act or wait a little bit more to receive the response?
Well, I would say just for that one specifically, if you take that square, which is critical and urgent, this is critical but not urgent given the factor. And then that statement from Clayton specifically makes me think it's important to do. It's going to require considerable reconstruction of Kubernetes. That's going to take many releases, and there's going to need to be many community members bought into it. And given it's been, yeah, is anybody in disagreement to that?
So I already removed the milestone and set it and removed critical urgent. Critical urgent is, this thing is broken, someone has to fix it right now, right? If it doesn't fall into that area, it's not critical urgent.
Yeah. And so I totally agree. We need to, so basically, does it have important soon? I'm just going to see what you've done. So it has important soon.
Yeah.
At the moment. Yeah, I agree with what Stephen has done there. Are you okay with that?
Yes,
obviously, given that it slipped at least 6 releases.
Yeah.
So since it was first open, it's more, looks like a larger piece of work that needs a lot of commitment to fix. But we can't just go and close the issue.
Yes, that makes sense. So
excellent. So now we have no criticals.
Yeah, now we can say it's 0 regarding issues.
Can we say woo woo? Does that get us green? Okay. Sorry, I'm excited today. Keep going.
So regarding priority important soon, we have 23 for the record. Now to PRs, we have 49. This is 2 more than our last meeting, but this is totally okay considering we are approaching the code freeze. But we have 1 critical urgent PR, and similar to the issue, just to see, this is a few months older, but it is close to being budget, and we just need the final approval. It already got some LGTM and so on, but it has been pinged 5 days ago for approval, but no response so far. So maybe we need to ping the SIG or something like that. But it seems like it is going to get in soon, and I don't believe it is going to be a problem regarding that one.
So something to note here is that it says that it wants to merge 2 commits from Kubernetes into Kubernetes master from unknown repository. Do we know if this person is still active to work on this? I've never seen that before.
I haven't noticed
Means
that.
they've deleted their fork?
That's what it feels like, yeah.
I remember this old chestnut from 1.15. This release blocked 1.15.
Is there a link to this?
Yes, it is in the notes. It is PR 78302.
Yeah, we should.
I can also post it in the chat.
Yeah, Stephen got you, Marco. I say keep going while people look at that and see if we get any updates. Keep going, Marco, in the interest of time.
So, and this is it regarding imported soon PRs. We are at 32. So all issues we have for the milestone is at 57, and this is 22 less than we had at the last meeting, which is great. Now, On the last meeting, we have talked a little bit about having a new metrics for reporting the status and measuring how are we standing. And we have talked like the bug triage team and have decided that we need to change it because having a metrics based on the number of open issues as PR is not really good because it changes from cycle to cycle and depends on many factors that we really can't change. So we thought that it might be a good idea to have a metric of release blocking issues. Now, how that would work, like at the beginning of the cycle, the bug triage team could familiarize with potential release blocking issues and ensure that they are active and that it is somehow tagged as release blocking. We might use priority critical urgent. Now, as it has been mentioned, that label might be a little bit broken, but this is something we might try to fix in this or in the next cycles, or we maybe even can introduce a new label to annotate and release blocking issue. And to make sure that it is fixed on time, we should probably poke them more frequently, like every week or something like that. Maybe even have a bot, like Fata bot or something like that, that is going to do that automatically. Now, regarding how the status update could work, early in the cycle, we could be yellow or red if we have a high number of critical urgent issues, or if we have such issues that are not really active or that might be blocked or something like that because of discussion. And I believe that we can't expect that we have low number early in the cycle because the cycles are just started and it might take some time until all issues are fixed. And it is totally okay to have more of them. But in the mid-cycle, we should monitor that those are getting close to being merged and closed and try to poke around SIGs and outers that we should take care of that. And then 1 or 2 weeks until the code freeze, trending to red if we have any critical urgent issue because that should be fixed in that time frame already. And this is what we had as idea. The action item of this is to update the rule handbook once we decide on how do we want to do updates and what measures we want to use. But if you have any ideas or have any suggestions of these, I think it may be good to discuss that.
Excellent. I mean, this level of detail was much more interesting to me, given that you bubbled up things that were labeled critical urgent on the issues and the PR side. So I think at a minimum, we need to know how they're trending and where they're at, because we consider them release blocking. I just don't know if the next step down, which is important soon, how we need to sub-triage that. Is it, yes, this is going in this release and hence is critical urgent, or no, this is not going in this release, hence important soon. It's kind of like, you know, I'm thinking about the hospital scene in the ER. Who gets to go into the hospital and who has to wait out and who's in line and how do you restructure that line? Because it's clear to me that there's always going to be a line. So how do we selectively say we need this fix? And if you're not committing to this fix in this release, then you get out of the pile and then you come back in the pile when we go into the next release. Because it seems you're suffering from a lot of orphans, long hanging orphans, which people have raised things and then, you know, never updated, or there's very little action and you spend a lot of time worrying about things when they're not actually actionable anymore.
So I think that the critical urgent stuff is critical urgent, right? I think that the combination of it being critical urgent and being in the milestone means it should be something that you consider trying to get into the milestone or poking the person until we get into the milestone. Important soon, I mean, it honestly depends, right? This also depends if like the issues are even prioritized properly, right? Has a SIG gotten to them and made sure they're prioritized properly? How much of that burden do we want to take on ourselves, right? Because this is a cross SIG job, this is a cross project job, right? Josh?
Historically, on Code Freeze Day, bug triage has always had to go through and reprioritize all the open issues because people don't prioritize them correctly.
So yeah, what I'm asking is, should that be our job? And I think the answer is no. We should not have to maintain all of the issues in KK for the sake of the entire project, right? This is a job for the entire project, right? So if we're finding friction at code freeze, this needs to be raised.
Yes, I agree on that. It is hard as a bug triage team to say, okay, this is important or not, because almost every SIG is going to,
You don't have the context for it.
You don't, and almost every SIG is going to disagree, like, okay, we think this is important. So we should take that on a level of a project and maybe somehow document what is priority, and maybe build some cap or something like that, that is, okay, we want that to improve, but it is a little bit problem how to improve, because everyone still has a lot of work, and this is getting, like, Kubernetes has a lot of issues and PRs, and prioritizing is a hard job. So
yeah, I think that critical urgent plus in the milestone is potentially release blocking, right? Anything else, Gwen?
May I suggest that this discussion also be tabled towards a thinky issue or a release?
Yeah, yes, but no, because we are talking about release team things. This comes up every cycle, right? So it's something that needs to be talked about in the release. Like we can't punt everything.
Right. I'm not saying punting. I'm saying we should discuss this in an issue where people can bring context and stats and numbers. That's all I'm saying.
to follow up on that, regarding this is about priority and other stuff that might affect the project as SIGs, maybe we should move that to sig-release meeting, because we have like 50 minutes left on this meeting.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
there.
I think at this point, yeah, let's just, in the interest of moving this along, I think just this level of detail is good for me. It helps me make a decision as to the status. So thank you for doing that. I think we don't have to make too many knee-jerk changes at the moment. This level of detail and knowing what we have in breakdown is good enough. It will be interesting for those important soon PRs of number 32. Once you ping them on code freeze, how much is actually going to get cleaned up and into this milestone?
Yeah, so we already pinged most of them on Monday or something like that. So we expect to, I don't know, once the code freeze starts, like tomorrow or Friday, we will go once again through them and see how is everything sending at bottom numbers of, did we get response or not?
Okay. Thank you, Marco. Thank you, Bug
Also,
Triage team. Yeah.
Yeah, so I have one more question quickly. It is, once we start with the code freeze, which is tomorrow Pacific time, end of the day. So what we are going to do with issues and PRs, like when do we want to start moving them out of the milestone? Do we want even to do that? Should we synchronize with enchantments to make sure that important things get in?
I don't think we can definitively move something into the next milestone. Has that been the pattern? I think I would like to say, are you in this milestone? Welcome back. Not just because you were here, you get to go there.
Yeah, so I think it should be the second code freeze drops. I think it should be a milestone clear. If you think that your issue should be in the next milestone, then fine, add it. If you think it should have been in the last milestone and it's about to be finished, then cool, we can add it back. But also we have like the milestone applier stuff that happens too. That only applies to the PRs, but if it is, we haven't, so right now the milestone applier is set so that any issue that merges right now will get applied to the 116 milestone, right? And that will be in place until, I guess, we cut 116. We haven't done this before, so I guess once the 116 is dropped, then we'd switch the milestone applier over to 117. But right now, anything that lands right now, targeting master or release 116 will be marked as milestone 116.
So all this to say, no, don't put them in 117.
Yes, milestone clear.
Clear.
Yeah, if you think that your thing should be in milestone in 117 and you have come back and triaged it again, then fine. But we shouldn't, because like moving, essentially kicking the can to the next milestone means that the next person who is doing bug triage will have to look at these things again.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
So, okay, I
Does
get it.
does that help? Yep.
Yes.
Fantastic. All right. So moving on to Tunde with the docs update.
Hello, everyone. So for this week, for docs, we don't have much updates. We have a deadline coming up next week, Tuesday. Right now, we have about 16 PRs that need to be ready for review before September 3rd. I was leaning towards green, but just to be on the safe side, I just changed it to yellow. I expect that the team should be able to meet the deadline, and we should be green before then. That's it.
Any questions for Tunde or Docs? Thank you for the update, Tunde and Docs team. Release notes update with Kristen.
Hello, sig-release. For update today, I wanted to mention that the release notes draft Google Doc has been posted, and there's a link in the agenda. And also, Sasha sent out an email to the SIG leads and chairs regarding the release notes draft editing announcement. And that's it from release notes. Thanks.
Excellent. Thank you, release notes. Thank you, Kristen. Moving on to comms update with Taylor.
Yo, hey everybody, happy Wednesday. Today, I've got a couple updates for you. We have the 116 release blog underway. I'm trailing a little bit on that one, but should have something updated today, just kind of getting the overall themes and everything well meshed. We have engaged a lot of these SIGs for their specific blog posts for the 116 release. And then thank you very much, Lackey, for getting that thread started as far as the IPv6 conversation. I'm going to knock that one again today and see if we can't get some more information there. Once we do, I'll add that to our documentation. Other than that, no blockers, people are communicating and everything is looking fine on that front.
Any questions for Taylor? Thank you, Taylor and the comms team. Release branch management with Young.
Hello, everyone. So for release branch management, we have code freeze scheduled tomorrow. I've opened a PR for that, and we have upcoming beta 2 scheduled next week. That's all for me.
Excellent. Any questions for release branch management?
Yeah, I guess one, maybe, so maybe we can also talk offline about this, but like maybe we should, is this the point at which we should be switching the milestone applier now that it's a new thing in the mix? Or should it be later? I don't know, right? Like maybe the PR for this enabling code freeze can also be switching the milestone to 117 for relative for the relevant branches.
I'll look at that later.
Yeah, we can chat about it.
Yeah, thank you.
Emeritus with Josh. Nope.
So
secession planning.
yeah,
Secession planning.
Yeah, so I just put this down as like now that we're about to be in code freeze very, very, very soon. Role leads should be looking at who's going to take over for their roles. Should also be working on cleaning up the set of people who are listed on the release team. If you have anyone who has been inactive in your role, please remove them from that roster. And if you have questions about, like, hey, this person looks really great, but I'm thinking about this and I don't know what to do, that's what we're here for. So talk to us. I think that now is probably a good point for Josh and I to start looking through the feedback from both this cycle, the last cycle, improvements on the questionnaires and all that good stuff. And so I think I'll try to start getting on that next week.
Excellent. Thank you, Stephen and Emeritus Leads. Release update. I'm going to go with yellow today. This is the first yellow I think we've had since burn down. So progress, exciting times. And I've changed to yellow because we have a yellow from bug triage. And CI signal is looking a lot more healthy. So thank you to all those teams for all that hard work and diligence. Code freeze tomorrow, end of day tomorrow. Please, if you're taking care of any of the enhancements, please go and ping. I know Kendrick and the team have been really diligent about getting this out. And then we have to be on the lookout for exceptions. So that's why I asked Ria and the enhancements team just to give me a percentage of things that are still outstanding, because I'd like to know what we think is at risk of coming in late, because that then goes back to Taylor. So the sooner we get that to Taylor and he knows what things fall out of the milestone, he can adjust the comms messaging accordingly in blogs. Docs deadline, Tunde spoke about this, next Tuesday. They should be ready for review. So if you're an owner of the docs, get them ready for that. And that 9/4. So 9/4 is next Wednesday, I believe. Next Wednesday. So beta 2 goes out on Wednesday. Let me just check the calendar. I thought it was Tuesday. We're doing Wednesday. I may just have my dates mixed up. Yes, it's Wednesday, 9/4. Never doubt yourself. That's what we learned. Yes, it's 9/4. Okay, so, and Young is updated there. We're okay. Everything looks on track. So that gives us from code freeze 3 days to make sure we try and take a look at CI signal so we get a really clean beta 2 if we can. And then we move on later down the release. I think we have an RC tentatively scheduled for the 10th, but I would ask, and maybe next week we can talk about whether we're doing RCs, because I have heard things about RCs and not doing them and doing another beta. So we can discuss that later. Daily burn down on Tuesday, Thursday is added next week. Monday, I've canceled the meeting. You should have got that update. Final question, and I know we're low on time, is the Tuesday, Thursday meetings. I took a pulse from people in Europe and 9 a.m. Pacific seemed to work for them in the majority. Do we want to change that? Marco had raised whether we could do something that was more time zone friendly for him. And I would like to at least ask that. So I can go and take a survey, or we can move it back an hour. Is there any compromise that we can make now that would be better for Marco? Would an hour earlier help Marco?
Well, I'm okay with any solution, even this is not too late. So what works for majority will probably work for me too.
Yeah, I can retake a pulse, but most people did not want to do it in the EU morning or around EU lunch and preferred late EU afternoon, which led them either to now 9 a.m. same slot or 8 a.m. So 1 hour early was the majority. So with that in mind, I mean, I'm happy if people we have it at 9 a.m. I took a pulse and that was definitely the mean of the responses. But if we want to move it, please speak now. I'm happy to move it with an hour or two. And if there's a big swing and you want it in the morning, I need to talk with Gwyn, who's in Europe currently, or Nico, so that they can staff that meeting from a lead perspective. So please, I guess, if you're in Europe and this time is not suitable for you for burn downs, please let me know. There's 4 of these meetings, just in context, for the next 2 weeks. So we would be changing 4 meeting time slots. Happy to do it. I guess ping me if you want to change it. Otherwise, I'll leave it as is. Marco has expressed interest to change it, if possible.
I'm back in the US next week, so I'm out for leading it.
Okay, so it would be with Nico, if we wanted to do it earlier than that, which is okay.
I guess it might be best to stay like it is right now.
Isn't Nico also on vacation?
Nico is back as of today.
All right. Okay, all right.
So he's pinged us, so we could talk to him about that. But please just make it known to me, make some noise to me. I will adjust accordingly. I guess that's the call to action. If it does not work for you, I would like to know about it. Yeah. Okay, we have 5 minutes. There is super late stage exception in the open discussion.
Yeah, so this one popped up on the SIG architecture mailing list, and it turned into something.
My answer is no.
Oh yeah, I already said no on the thread.
Good. Okay, great.
It was not just a no; it was a strong -1 for all
Okay,
of
a strong negative 1. I like that strong negative. Not a weak -1.
No, very strong -1. So essentially, there have been kind of back and forth about the functionality of kubectl copy, and the discussion has become like, okay, well, someone removes a thing that does like path traversal or does this thing, and someone adds it back, right? Or we find a new security vulnerability, and the reason this kind of popped up is because there is something to be announced regarding this. So the thought was, what if we just removed it, right? So the proposal was to remove kubectl copy, and it's like, whoa. No, like it's not that simple. So this started on the architecture and sig-CLI mailing list, and I've copied sig-release and release team. So y'all should have popped up in your inboxes at some point. We need to be. I'm fiercely defensive of all of you, but we need to make sure that we're watching things like this. So if you're not part of like things like the architecture mailing list, it might be good to join that one just to see when things like this pop up. Essentially, I said, kept it, like, let's make a decision, kept it, like, solve it there. It shouldn't be on a mailing list. But also, like, potentially, but we can't deprecate something in one cycle, right? Like even with, so we have an exceptions policy. So we have an exceptions policy for things that come into come in as enhancements, but we also have an exceptions policy for what we do around deprecations for features, flags, things that are GA, beta, alpha, all that stuff, right? So they wanted to exercise the exceptions policy for feature deprecation. And even still, it looks, if you read through it, it looks sketchy. So I think that's a decent case study if anyone has time to go through that thread.
Yeah. And I think as it relates, I'm not sure if you mentioned this, that the case in point was we want to remove this and we want to remove it in 1.16.
Yes.
With 3 days notice before code freeze.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's an interesting, go and have a look at the back and forth. It is an interesting thread.
Yeah, and it's one of those things that I don't know if it's more work that we have to be doing in terms of I don't know. I really don't know. Because it's something that we mentioned. The release calendar is up, and it's available, and it's active for all of the releases moving forward. It's just something that notes that people are not aware of the timelines, because I don't think anyone would suggest dropping an entire feature in the space of 3 days or 2 days.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to call the end of this meeting. Well, I do want to say one thing. I do really appreciate the level of depth people are putting in and caring about the different elements to the release team. So even though we're having long discussions, I do actually think this is the right forum and we can spin things out. Because if we don't make decisions in this release, it's just going to linger for the next people to set up. And what I'm really trying to do is get a pattern 2 weeks out from release where we're not stonewalled on something blocking at the 11th hour. Granted, that can still happen, but I'm trying to get all our ducks in a row so that the next 2 weeks we know exactly where we stand from a bug triage perspective and a CI signals perspective. So I just wanted to say thank you, everybody, for the level of detail they're bringing to each release meeting. And with that, I will close this burn down meeting. It's lovely to see you all. Happy Wednesday. We will see you at 9 a.m. Pacific on Friday. Thank you.